Hello, hello. So getting all set up, but okay. And then Riley will be here soon. As you can see, I'm like making more messes than I'm getting
I
things.
think the craft room's always a mess, right?
Yeah, I mean it's my studio space, so I do all my commission work out of here too now. So
Yeah.
let's see if this will work tonight. Oh, welcome, Riley. Perfect. It's connected. Great. Okay, can you hear me okay? Great. Okay. Okay. Oh, it's such a day, but nothing caught on fire. Okay, so last week I introduced the kissing zipper and I don't like how I demoed it. So I thought this week I'm going to demonstrate it from start to finish. So I just want you to watch and maybe I'll be better about explaining what steps I'm doing at each point. That way you'll have a very good, clear like recording of the kissing or centered zipper, because it really should look like this when it's finished. It should be a nice, clean, just the zipper pull at the top hanging out, but we want the stitching around the zipper to be even on either side. We want the lapping to be even over the top. And then of course it to open and close. So both of you, I noticed last time, had one side close to the other. And I think it's because we opened the center, the seam allowance and the basting seam too soon. So I'm going to demonstrate this one more time, and then building off the principles that we use for the centered or kissing zipper, I'm going to demo the lap zipper and have you work along with me. Okay. Okay. So for the centered or kissing zipper, I'm going to take my two pieces of fabric. I'm going to place them together. I'm going to mark the length of my zipper on my fabric so I know where to stop. So I'm going to go right beyond the stop in the zipper here. So I'm going to put a pin in my two pieces of fabric so that I know that I will baste from the top to this pin, and from here to here, I'm going to go back to a regular stitch length. And this pin is right below the zipper pull, the stop is on the zipper. So I'll do my 1/2 inch seam allowance basting stitch to start. And then once I get to my pin, I'm going to turn my stitch length back to my 2.5. Sometimes I like to back stitch there just to keep it nice and secure. Finish off my seam. So now I have a piece of fabric that's basted from here to where that pin was. And then from here, I've gone from where the pin was to the bottom, I have my regular 2.5. I'm now going to press this open, and then I'm going to press everything to one side, having only a single seam allowance pressed to one side, and the other seam allowance, the other two pieces of fabric pressed to the other side. So I have my second seam allowance and my 2 layers of fabric on one side, and I have my single seam allowance to one side. I'm gonna start with my zipper up. So I'm gonna have my zipper fully zipped. I'm going to lay my zipper right onto my seam allowance, matching up the edge of my zipper tape with the edge of my seam allowance. I'm gonna switch my foot to my zipper foot. I have a zipper foot right here. Sometimes what I like to do, so I like to add a pin just to keep it started, because I'm only going to start sewing below the zipper pull because I can't get with my zipper foot closer than that. So I'm going to sew where I can get my foot right below the pull. And I'm going to sew this all the way down, just the tape to the seam allowance, the single sided seam allowance. That can be a basting stitch, it can be a regular stitch length. It depends on how you want the final garment to be. So if you want to take this second set of stitching out before you finish your garment, you can, but I'm going to go ahead and just do regular stitch length there. So I have it sewn to the one seam allowance. My next step is I'm going to go ahead and pin the top, just like I did on the other side, to the single sided seam allowance and pull the other two pieces to this side. I'm going to unzip my zipper. And just the same as I did, I'm going to go as far as I can with my only on the seam allowance to keep it on the zipper. A trick to this, because when your zipper pull is facing down, oftentimes that means the zipper is locked, is if you keep your zipper pull pointed up, it'll be easier to unzip later. But at the same time, we don't have to worry too much about that because we're going to go ahead and sew the outside before we open it. So I'm going to go ahead and sew just the secondary seam allowance to the zipper tape as far as I can. Taking my time to line everything up. So now I have the zipper open and sewn to the seam allowances of this piece. So the front is like this, the stitch, the basting stitch is still intact. My zipper is here. I'm now going to, on the front side, hold on. Excuse me. I'm now going to, on the front side, without opening the basting, I'm going to go ahead and sew my top stitch here as far down as I can. And then I'm going to go ahead and start to open it. So I'm going to start here. And I'm going to be really trying to keep it nice and straight, nice and even, close to, not too close to the zipper tape, but I want to make sure it's even on either side. Your zipper pull is up. Sometimes what you can do is grab it from the inside, pull that zipper up to close it and continue up and around. I just moved all of my things. I can continue my stitch. I just zipped up the zipper. Pivoting twice. So the other side. So I will, to keep it even, I will have to stop at this point and then open it up and then stitch up the last bit of it. So I have my seam ripper right here. I'm just going to keep it on the machine. So I've got it still on the machine with the needle down in it. And I'm just going to go ahead and open my basting stitch. So that I can unzip my zipper one more time and finish my kissing or centered zipper. So I've opened this up, zip my zipper back down, and now I'm going to finish stitching all the way to the end with the back stitch. And then that way, the trick is to keep the zipper pull up if you need to move it mid-stitch, because if the zipper pulls down, it's kind of locked in position. That way, and clean up my basting stitches by pulling them out. I have now created a perfect centered kissing zipper. Does that make more sense? Is that a little bit more clear maybe?
Yes, that helps.
Okay. Yeah, I was like, man. So today we're going to do what's called a lapped zipper. So it's going to build right off of our kissing zipper. So we're going to do the same concept to begin with our kissing zipper. So our lap zipper differs. Oftentimes we see these like on the side seam for skirts or for pants. Our lap zipper has a full lap that's going to sit over the zipper tape and the zipper pull. And it's going to be stitched down on the other side, creating a nice clean finish. So for this, we're going to need 2 4x6 and 1 regular zipper. If you'd like, just like how I demoed this, maybe I can demo a lap zipper all together once, and then I can walk through it slowly as everyone's doing it. Okay, cool. So remember how I talked about shortening zippers? I'm going to go ahead and take my zipper, I'm going to shorten it. And how I'm going to do that is I'm going to put on my regular presser foot. So many presser feet. Turn my stitch length to 0 or disengage my feed dogs, whichever I prefer. And I'm going to see, let's make this a 5-inch zipper. Switch my stitch to zigzag with either the feed dogs disengaged or with the stitch length set to 0. I'm going to go ahead and engage my zigzag with my feed dogs disengaged and set to 0 just to be double redundant. You only need to do one or the other. And I go back and forth, back and forth, back and forth until I create a pretty substantial stop. It doesn't need to be so thick that it's sticking out of the presser foot, but it just needs to be enough that when I go to pull the zipper pull down, that I don't have to worry about it going past that point. So my stop is substantial enough that I can go ahead and do that. And then I'm going to grab my scissors. And cut the excess of my zipper off because I no longer need it. I have a stop that's going to stop the zipper from going anywhere. So just like before, once I have my zipper length that I need it to, I'm going to go ahead and hold up my 2 pieces, hold up my zipper, find that place where I need to do that transition, and pin it so that I can go ahead and baste from the top to this pin. And then I can go to my 2.5 stitch length for the rest of it. And that is my cat. My cat, keep going. Being wonderfully adorable. My machine does not like its feed dogs disengaged. Almost need a mallet. There we go. My stitch length all the way to my basting. Going to baste down. Oh, go back to my straight stitch. And I'm going to baste down for my 1/2 inch all the way down to that pin. I'm going to switch to my 2.5 stitch length. Like I said, you don't have to do this right now with me. I'm going to walk it through slowly again. I'm going to just do the whole thing once as a demo, and then I'm going to do it one more time with you watching and we're doing it together. So just like my centered or kissing, I'm going to press one seam allowance towards both pieces of my top of my fabric. So I have just one seam allowance exposed. Hi, Kagome. And just like that kissing zipper, I'm going to line my zipper up and I'm going to switch to my zipper foot and sew my seam allowance by zipper tape to the seam allowance. Only one side though. I'm going to start right below the zipper hole because I can't get it closer than that. Sometimes like to put a couple pins in it so that everything lines up really nicely. I can move down my zipper pull and go ahead and sew the rest of that zipper onto the seam allowance. So this is where we're going to diverge from the kissing or centered zipper. I've only sewn this tape down to one single seam allowance. And what I'm going to do next is I'm going to actually press the seam allowance as close to the teeth as I can. So the seam allowance is going to be stepped back about 1/8 of an inch from the tape. So I'm going to press the fabric, folding it back and exposing about 1/8 of an inch of the seam allowance I stitched it to with the seam line, the basted seam line, 1/8 inch from that zipper teeth. So I'm not sure you can tell, but there is the seam allowance that I've stitched it to is making up 1/8 of a space from that seam line that's basted. So I'm now going to sew only on that seam allowance close to the zipper. I'm not going to sew past that basted line. I'm not going to sew on the other seam allowance or the 2 other pieces. I'm only going to sew on that seam allowance line that I've stitched my zipper to begin with. I'm going to sew only in that 1/8 space. So this is where it's really crucial to have that zipper fixed. You need to get really close to that the teeth. Leave the needle in if I'm getting close to the pole. Go ahead and zip the piece up. And then I'm going to continue stitching all the way down, just in that seam allowance, close to the zipper. What I've done is I've sewn twice in the same tape side and twice to the seam allowance, that single seam allowance. I'm sorry, Kagome, what's wrong? Sorry, my cat just became very vocal. From here, I'm gonna open my piece back up, and I'm going to either hand baste down and over for my lap seam, or if I'm confident, I'm going to stitch my lap seam. And this lap seam needs to get close to the teeth, but not too close. And I want to make sure I catch this seam allowance, the second side of seam allowance. So I'm going to open up my top piece. I'm not opening the basting. I'm just going to open up the top piece. I'm going to start, I like to start right at the base, right where that seam line is, that it opens up, and stitch from here, pivot, stitch from here, pivot, and then stitch all the way up. Right before I get to the pole, go ahead and pull it down. If I can, if I keep that pole upward, and then sew all the way to the top. Drop my needle and pivot. And leave my needle in just like I did my center kissing seam. I could open up my basting stitch now with my seam ripper carefully. I can zip the zipper down and then finish my lapped seam. I'm keeping my needle down so that nothing moves. Zip down my zipper. And now I'm going to continue my seam as if it's not been interrupted. Stitch, and I am done. I did the oh my goodness. So many threads to pull. So that was the lap zipper. I'm going to go ahead and prepare 2 more pieces of fabric. Go ahead and prepare your fabric, grab a zipper, and we're going to go through this together now. start with basting my two pieces of fabric together, just like before. Oh, I gotta shorten my zipper first. Let's see, let's do it about here. Okay. Disengage feed dogs. Create my stop before I cut. Check my stop. Great. And then cut my piece. Now I'm going to find out how long my lap is going to be. So looks like my lap is going to go down to here. So I'm pretty much basting the whole thing. Oh man. I did it so fast, I didn't baste the beginning, but you know. I'll make it work. Oh. So I have my seam. I'm going to go ahead and press one seam allowance towards the two fronts of the fabric and expose one seam allowance. I have one seam allowance exposed. I'm going to place my zipper on this single seam allowance and I'm going to stitch onto my fabric, my zipper, with my zipper foot. And stitch it to the seam allowance. I'm going to make sure I sew the entire zipper tape to the seam allowance, and I'm going to do that by, once I get close to the pole, I'm going to go ahead and leave my needle in the fabric. I'm going to zip down the pole, and then I'm going to continue all the way up. Once I have my piece, I'm going to press that first seam allowance really close to that teeth and I'm gonna have the seam line ending about 1/8 of an inch from my piece. So with the pattern fabric, I think you can see the fold a little bit clearer. So that's the seam, basted seam line, and that's that first seam allowance that I've sewn already down. There's 1/8 of it folded over right here. The seam line is 1/8 from the zipper teeth, and I'm gonna sew on that same first seam allowance that I sewed on already onto it. Is that clear? Cool. So my zipper is now sewn twice to that first seam allowance. My zipper tape, same side, sewn twice to that first seam allowance. And the second seam allowance and the 2 pieces over here have not been stitched on.
Christine, can I see the inside of your first sample that you had? I am, okay. Okay, that is what I need. Okay.
I have 2
Sorry, I
stitches
was-
on one side of the tape, and I have 1 stitch on
right.
the other side.
Okay, no, that makes so much more sense. I sewed something together that shouldn't have been sewn together, but I'm better now. Thank you.
Oh. So this has been sewn to 1 seam allowance, that first seam allowance, but just like they're centered twice. And pull this back and I press this, I could see that seam line right here. That's my basting stitch, and then that little fold is that seam line of the seam allowance sewn down to the zipper tape. So then, once we have our piece sewn with 2 stitches on the tape, one side of tape, just the seam allowance, I'm gonna open this up. I'm gonna start at the base. I'm gonna put my needle in right at this where the seams, the seam line is, and I'm going to stitch out and then pivot and then stitch all the way up as far as I can. Again, keep your zipper pulled up. So I have my zipper pull facing up. Drop my needle. Okay, and then I'm gonna pivot. I'm gonna stitch it up. Once I can't, drop in my needle, use my seam ripper to open up my seam line carefully. Which if basted, shouldn't be challenging. There we go. Ah. And then that's your lap zipper.
Mine is super crooked and I didn't hit the zipper tape the whole way, but I think I got the concept. Anyways, super crooked, drunk sewing right here.
Did it get crooked because your zipper pull was in the way?
Probably. I thought I mean, I feel like I had it out of the way, but it honestly just looks like it's sewn in crooked. See that? So I'm not sure how I did that, but I did. So I got good skills.
It takes practice. It really takes practice to get this really clean. Mine's slightly crooked too, but you know, there's some things that you can learn to live with.
Yeah. Yeah. But I think
Also,
I
what
get the,
helps-
go ahead.
Yeah, you get
Go
the
ahead.
concept. What helps is having thread color that's the same color as your fabric. I'm using a
Yeah.
black thread so that it shows up when I show it to you on your screen.
Yeah. Oof, yikes.
If you have the extra zipper, if you have the opportunity, go ahead and try it again.
Okay, I will. I might just rip that and see if I can make it a little prettier.
Yeah, we have about 15 minutes before we switch to Open Lab.
Okay.
And I expected the lap zipper to be a little complicated because of that stitch line on the zipper, the seam allowance the second time. That's what always seems to throw people.
Wait. Did you guys have a good week? It's so quiet.
Yeah, I didn't get to check in with everybody, see how everyone's week was. How was Halloween? How was Halloween for everyone?
It was good.
Yeah.
I'm trying to give myself diabetes right now because I can't stay out of the kids' Halloween candy.
Do you have a lot of trick-or-treaters?
We do not. We live out of town a ways, so we go to town to do that. But it was fun. I was Cruella all over town. Sad part is I was tormenting some of the kids in a good, healthy way, asking them if they had any puppies, because I was Cruella. But the new Cruella, she's not like a puppy thief, so they had no idea what I was talking about.
Oh,
Then
no.
I felt really old.
Oh, wow. Even the old live action with Glenn Close as Corella, she was into puppies.
Yeah, I don't remember if I saw that one, but the new one with Emma Stone, which is really cute, she doesn't steal any. Well, she steals dogs, not puppies. So I should have probably, yeah. Anyways, it was fun though.
Yeah, we had one trick-or-treater. We actually, because we just moved in to the neighborhood, so we bought like full-size candy bars just because we wanted to be like, hey guys, we're happy to be here. And we had one trick-or-treater.
One trick-or-treater. So now you have all that candy at your house.
I told him he had to take 3 at least. So
there you go.
I was like, it was like 4:30 and I had left Alameda and I already saw trick-or-treaters out on Sunday, Halloween. So it's like, oh, I gotta get home so the trick-or-treaters. And my neighbor was out front and she said, oh, my grandchildren are in town. It's like, oh, are they going trick-or-treating? Do we get a lot of trick-or-treaters? She's like, oh, we really don't. It's really quiet and secluded up here and also mostly older families. And I was like, ah. She's like, but my grandson and my granddaughter are here, so I'll have them come over. I was like, perfect. So they came over and she was like, you could take one. And I was like, please take more. She had him take more. So that was nice. And then
awesome.
We stayed in and I think we watched a scary movie. I don't remember what we watched, but we just kind of hung out. We were able to get furniture. So we have a sofa instead of a military cot now. Winning.
Yay. My son poked his head up here last week and he saw your green couch in the background over there and he thinks it's awesome. He would like one for his room.
I mean, it's a nice couch and I love this couch, but the living room is like huge. I mean, I cannot stress how much of a dollhouse this couch looked like. It looked like I had a toy furniture in a house. So I was like, that has to go somewhere else. And I love the couch so much. I was like, I'm keeping it for my studio. But yeah, how about you, Riley? How was your Halloween?
I worked on Halloween, but
Oh.
I work every weekend, so that's nothing. That's just my routine. But we did go to the Winchester House on Wednesday, I think, or no, Thursday. We went on Thursday, and
Oh,
that was
fun.
fun. It was kind of corny, but it was cute.
It was super corny. I went on Friday.
Yeah.
I was not ready for that level of corn, especially how it was
Yeah.
sold online. Yeah, it was cute.
It's so funny. Yeah, we haven't done anything for Halloween in years, I don't think, just because I don't know, things always come up, or I've been working, or I don't know. But yeah, so we actually did something this year, which was a nice change, I guess. But we don't get trick or treat either.
Oh, I was gonna say, have you done the Winchester House without the Halloween tour?
No, I actually feel like it might be better just because you'd be
It's
able to
way
see
better.
things.
Way better. You get to actually spend time in each room, and they talk about the history of each room, and they talk about like more details about why things are the way they are, besides that she was short. Like, I
Yeah.
felt like it didn't go into any detail in that tour, but it was fun. It was over an hour for us. Ours was. So
Yeah. I don't know how long ours was. I mean, it did feel pretty long though, but like I just felt like it would have been just a little bit better if you could actually see where you're at, because like you could really see anything.
yeah, it was fun though. I was happy that I did it, but if that was my first trip to the Winchester, I would probably be very disappointed.
Yeah, it was something to do. It wasn't, we were happy to just do something, I think.
How was your lap zipper?
Uh
Oh, that looks great.
yeah, it's a little I know there are areas that I made goof ups on, but it's straighter than the last one. So
Perfect. Yeah, taking that time, like I think that's how I'm going to do more demos moving forward, just because it's an online format, is I'll demo it quickly and then I'll demo it with you so that you see the whole process, and then we'll work through it together. I think that's just going to be more effective.
sounds good.
Next class, we're going to be doing invisible zippers. And then if we have time, because we kind of went through pretty quickly today, I'll set up to do invisible and separating zippers. So have an invisible and have a separating zipper next week.
You said you need a special foot for an invisible zipper.
Yes.
I
So
don't know where I can get one of those.
your invisible zipper foot is going to look like this. It will have two channels in the center and a hole through the top. And the hole is for your needle and the channel is for the zipper tape, because the invisible zipper, we're going to sew closer to the teeth than we do for any other zipper. I'd be surprised if they sold you a lot of feet and they did not sell you an invisible zipper. If you have a zipper foot like this type of zipper foot, you can do an invisible zipper. You just won't get as close to the teeth. And so I'll show you a trick to use this a little bit more like an invisible zipper foot.
Okay, I do have that one. And I put that not invisible zipper in my first dress. Definitely not invisible, but I did use the other foot. So if you have a trick, we might do that. There's not a Baby Lock dealer within like 150 miles of me, so I will not be able to find one.
See if you can order it online.
Okay.
And then why don't you also, if you email Jennifer, because we do sell Baby Lock machines, she might be able to sell you and ship you a foot.
Okay. Sounds good. Did you say it's studio time after this?
Yeah, I keep misgauging, teaching is a practice. Like
Yeah, of
doctoring and lawyering, right?
course.
You learn what fits best.
It's not an urgent question or anything, but I was just curious about the classes that are going to be offered, like starting in January. Do you have any info?
Yes. So we're going to be going into advanced sewing techniques for January. So right now we're doing more of the basic kind of introduction to sewing. I'm hoping to get into more hand stitching as well, just to kind of introduce you to the art of hand stitching, because we, especially for finer pieces, will want to use that hand stitching just to have that perfect finish. And then the pattern drafting is going to be instead pattern draping. And what we'll be doing is we'll all have a dress form. We'll do, we're trying to put together, find those half scale dress forms. P&G sells them. And you will be making clothing based on how you sculpt the fabric around your dress form.
That sounds like fun.
Yeah, draping, it's like pattern drafting is math, 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 which is a lot of fun. I love math, but like it's more like very like rigid. It seems like there's more like stricter rules. There is some flexibility, but then with draping, it's like more artistic and like you have like a lot more freedom, but it's harder to start draping without having a basic understanding of pattern drafting, because you have to take those sculptures that you're draping and bring it into paper to then perfect. So
Understandable. Well, that'll be fun.
yeah. Usually most programs I've seen, actually all programs that I've seen, draping is always a class that's considered an intermediate class, because you need to have a good foundation before you move into it. So, but we will be reviewing some patterning when we're talking about patterning at the beginning, because just in case we need a refresher, we'll have it. And I am here, I promise. I'm just grabbing some fabric.
Hey, Christine,
Yeah,
I have a very important question.
yes.
Do you make the majority of your own clothes or do you buy stuff? Do you like to do both? I'm curious
It's
since you're,
both. It's
yeah,
both. There was a time where my wardrobe was almost entirely things that I made. And then things fluctuate. Pandemic, I let go of a lot of things I made because I didn't think I'd ever lose the weight. And then I lost the weight.
oh, oh,
So,
wow. Yeah.
I actually let go of a lot of my wardrobe before the move, but even before I knew I was moving, because I was like, well, I don't know if I'll lose the weight. I know in your 30s that, especially later in your 30s, when you gain weight, it's harder to lose weight. And so I'm like, why should I have
That's
anything in my
true.
wardrobe that makes me sad? I don't fit in it anymore. And so I sold a lot of it online. So I just posted it. I had lots of photos, and more photos you put of something, it's the faster it will sell. That's what I've learned.
Yeah, that's true.
And the more description that you place, the faster it will sell. Like it just, you got to put that front effort. And yeah, I sold a lot. I'm here. I'm just grabbing something. I'm right here. Back to go, mate. Mhm. You're still muted. Oh, you're wearing your shirt.
Yeah, so I ripped everything out because I used a 1/2 inch seam allowance, and I thought maybe if I used just the edge and ran just the edge through my serger, does it look like it fits better back here?
It does fit better. I could still see a little bit of tightness across the shoulder, but it looks like it fits a lot better.
Okay. So anyways, thank you for your help with that. I'm gonna try and cut a new pattern and try it, but I liked the fabric, so I didn't want to waste it.
Yeah, it looks great. It looks great.
Thanks.
And Lacey, you could tell the fits better on yourself, right? Like visually, it's definitely looks better. The arms might be a little.
Yeah,
too
I just didn't know
slender.
how it looked. I just didn't know how it looked across the back. I can't see back there, so I was looking for
get
your professional opinion. But for my
It
third
looks a lot
project, you
better.
said that you won.
Yeah.
Okay, awesome. I'm sorry if my microphone is delayed with these earbuds. For my other project, I was hoping to replicate this
Ooh.
that I'm
Okay.
wearing. It's
So-
just a raglan, but
Mhm.
I just like how it fits.
Okay, so then have you done a knockoff before?
I have attempted, my mother tried to walk me through something once before, used my pattern tracer, got the tracing paper out and tried to, do the mock sleeves. It's, yeah. So
The
that's gonna
best
be
thing
my,
is raglans are probably raglans are a little easier than set in sleeves to knock off because you
Okay.
have it's easier to lay the seam line flat to get that really perfect and clear. So are you the beginning of your third project now?
no, not yet. I'm gonna do the neckline on this shirt and finish the hem, but that is going to be my third project.
Okay, so then during studio time, once you're ready for a third project, I'll pull something similar in my studio and we'll walk through doing a knockoff.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. You're gonna do a what?
Hello there, it's me again to bother you.
Oh, you're never bothering me.
I have a question.
Oh.
How important would you say stay stitching is on a neckline?
I think, especially for a knit or a bias part of the neckline, it's very important, especially for someone who is just doing it for the first, second, maybe even 10th time, because what happens when you sew a neckline, which has a bias or a knit, it's more likely to stretch and you'll get these wiggly wobblies.
Okay. Okay, I did the stay stitch on the neckband. I didn't do it on the garment itself. I wonder if I can switch you on this thing. Let's see. Can I? I don't know if I can. So let me see here. Rear camera. Oh, okay. A little
That looks pretty good.
stretched.
Yeah, it looks like the
There.
neckband is a little loose compared to the,
Yeah.
so I'm wondering
I
if it all,
Oh
Go ahead.
gosh, there we go. Oh, I remeasured it because I thought it was a little long and I actually took some off. And so I don't know. So I was wondering because I
Mhm.
didn't stay stitch the garment right there. And I thought maybe that might have been the issue.
it could, because you want that neckband to be shorter, especially the more stretch
Yeah.
you have in it, you want it to be shorter so that it lays upright. I think it looks pretty good. I really do.
Okay.
It's like just a little wobble, like it's not significant. It's something that
Maybe.
would be approved by inspectors in China for mass-produced garments for sure. So I think you've done really well.
Yes. Okay. Whoops. Let's see. Thank you. How do I turn this darn thing around?
Oh, you're muted.
Always muted. Okay. So I'll probably hem that and go have some dinner and
Okay.
then be back. So
And then I'll see you at 6 for pattern drafting.
sounds good. I hope it's going good over there. Riley, you're being very quiet.
Yeah, I'm very focused. I'm working on my neckline. It's funny you mentioned that. I just did a stay stitch for mine and I'm doing a bias neckline. So like I'm a little nervous.
Yes, so you want to definitely stay stitched if you're working with the bias neckline. You'll want that.
Okay. I'll see you ladies later. Have a good dinner.
You
Yeah.
too. Okay, I will see you in a half hour.
Okay, see you then.
Okay.